a scientist made a terrifying discovery when she found that every bee on a remote island had mysteriously died. Their bodies lay scattered across the ground in a strange, circular pattern. But that was only the beginning. Moments later, a young girl flying a kite was suddenly pulled forward by an invisible force, and a massive curtain of light appeared out of nowhere, engulfing the entire planet. What nobody could have imagined was that the catastrophe threatening Earth had begun with nothing more than one girl's curiosity about the universe. Her name was Annika, one of the most brilliant computer scientists in the world. At the age of 25, she shocked the scientific community by developing an algorithm that allowed humanity to capture the first-ever image of dark matter. Yet beneath her remarkable achievements lay a lifetime of pain. The deaths of her younger sister, and later her mother, had left wounds that never healed. Again and again, Annika found herself asking the same question. Why was she still alive when the people she loved were gone? Everything changed the day she met a man named Sam, a technology billionaire who had built his fortune through solar energy. Sam was known for pursuing ambitious ideas that others considered impossible. During a public event, he openly praised Annika as a true visionary. Afterward, he approached her with an extraordinary offer, a secret project located on a remote island somewhere in the Caribbean. Sam explained that the universe was far from empty. He believed intelligent signals from extraterrestrial civilizations were hidden within the vastness of space, and he wanted to use Annika's dark matter algorithm to help uncover them. Without much hesitation, she accepted the invitation and boarded a speedboat bound for the mysterious island. During the journey, she met another recruit named Charlie, a gifted electronics engineer who had also been brought in by Sam. Like Annika, he had come hoping to find evidence of alien life. Upon arriving on the island, Annika immediately noticed a series of strange metal pillars standing around an open plaza. At the center was a massive device resembling a pyramid. Her instincts told her that the structures were somehow connected to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Following a winding path, she eventually entered the island's only building, where she met the project's lead scientist, an eccentric researcher named Perry. The man had a sharp tongue and an abrasive personality. The moment he met Annika and Charlie, he assumed they had been sent by Sam to monitor his work. Even so, he made no effort to hide his contempt, repeatedly referring to the enormously expensive facility as nothing more than a billionaire's toy. Perry then led them to the heart of the project, a gigantic machine whose displays were filled with countless chaotic data points. He explained that traditional methods of searching for extraterrestrial life were fundamentally flawed. In his view, it was like scooping a cup of water from the ocean and then concluding that whales did not exist. Perry believed that any truly advanced civilization would communicate through quantum entanglement, allowing information to travel faster than light. The machine he had built was designed to function as a quantum communications eavesdropper. Rather than transmitting signals into space, it simply listened, hoping to intercept conversations already taking place somewhere in the universe. Unfortunately, after 6 years of operation, the machine had produced nothing but endless noise. The overwhelming flood of data left Charlie completely baffled. Staring at the screen full of seemingly random symbols, he had no idea where to begin. Annika, however, saw something different. An idea immediately came to her. She adapted the same algorithm that had once revealed dark matter and applied it to the machine's data stream. To everyone's astonishment, the impossible happened. The chaotic points began rearranging themselves as though guided by an invisible hand. Slowly but surely, order emerged from the noise until a clear and stable signal appeared on the screen. What had once seemed like meaningless static was now something entirely different, a language that no human being could understand. Charlie was overwhelmed with excitement. To him, the signal was undeniable proof that intelligent life existed beyond Earth. He believed humanity had just reached one of the greatest milestones in its history and that they should immediately attempt to establish contact. Annika, however, felt the exact opposite. The discovery filled her with unease. Responding to an unknown civilization without understanding its intentions, she argued, would be like lighting a campfire in the middle of a dark forest. It could expose Earth to dangers beyond human comprehension. The beings on the other end of the signal might belong to a civilization millions, or even hundreds of millions, of years more advanced than humanity. Project leader Perry, meanwhile, remained frustratingly indifferent. Years earlier, he had lost his wife in a devastating fire, an event that left him consumed by guilt and nihilism. Since then, he had lost interest in humanity's future altogether. Whether civilization thrived or collapsed meant very little to him. As the team argued over what course of action to take, Perry offered no clear position, seemingly detached from the consequences either way. Before the debate could be resolved, the project's wealthy sponsor arrived on the island. Sam visited periodically to inspect the facility's progress, and it was obvious that he cared deeply about the experiment. When he learned that Annika had achieved a breakthrough almost immediately after joining the project, he was thrilled, promising to provide even more funding. He urged her to focus all her efforts on decoding the contents of the quantum transmission as quickly as possible. Perry watched the exchange with a dark expression. It was clear that he sensed his authority slipping away and feared being replaced. Charlie, on the other hand, was driven entirely by idealism. He believed both Sam and Annika were being far too cautious. In his view, there was no realistic way for humanity to decode the message through conventional analysis alone. The signal came from a completely alien species with an entirely different way of thinking. The only way to understand its meaning, he argued, was through direct and continuous communication. Eventually, Charlie made a reckless decision behind everyone's backs. Without informing the rest of the team, he secretly activated a secondary program hidden within the listening device. The software had originally been written by Perry and allowed the machine to switch from passive observation to active transmission. Charlie genuinely believed that if humanity reached out with goodwill, it would receive goodwill in return. Perry soon discovered what Charlie had done, but instead of stopping him, the discovery inspired an even more radical idea. He decided to amplify the signal and broadcast it across a much greater distance. Annika was horrified. She feared that such an action could trigger consequences nobody could predict. Yet she was not in charge of the project and had no authority to stop them. Desperate, she tried calling Sam to report what was happening, but his phone remained switched off. In the end, she could do nothing except watch helplessly as Perry pressed the button that initiated the high-frequency transmission. His reasoning was simple. He wanted to prove once and for all how insignificant humanity truly was in the vastness of the cosmos. But the instant the signal was sent, every light in the laboratory suddenly went dark. Fortunately, power was restored only moments later. At first, everyone assumed it had been an ordinary electrical failure. But the next morning, the news revealed a far more disturbing truth. During the previous night, electronic systems across the entire world had simultaneously gone offline for exactly 8 minutes and 19 seconds. Traffic accidents erupted everywhere. Aircraft fell from the sky, and countless people lost their lives as critical infrastructure failed without warning. The disaster inflicted unimaginable damage on human civilization, and many experts began speculating that Earth had been targeted by an extraterrestrial attack. But Annika and the others knew better. They were convinced the event was directly connected to the signal transmitted the night before. The duration was simply too specific to be a coincidence. 8 minutes and 19 seconds was almost exactly the amount of time sunlight required to travel from the sun to Earth. Whoever, or whatever, had received their message had responded with absolute precision. It was a reply so deliberate and undeniable that it left no room for doubt. A chill ran down their spines. No one had expected that a simple greeting to the cosmos could provoke such an overwhelming demonstration of power. Even worse, the event might not have been an attack at all. It could have been nothing more than a warning, a casual display of strength from a civilization so advanced that humanity could scarcely comprehend it. Without saying a word, Perry shut down the transmitter. But deep down, he wondered whether it was already too late. Could turning off the machine really stop whatever had been set in motion? Meanwhile, Perry's daughter was flying a kite on the island. Nearby, a single bee drifted quietly toward the center of the plaza. Without warning, it suddenly dropped lifelessly to the ground. Around the circular transmitter structure, countless dead bees had already begun piling up. The sight was impossible to ignore. A moment later, the little girl felt a sharp tug in her hands. The kite seemed to be pulled by an invisible force, dragging both itself and its owner across the ground. Perry immediately sensed that something was wrong and rushed outside to cut the kite string. At the same time, Annika and Charlie stood frozen in place. High above them, a massive circular green veil had appeared in the sky. Had the civilization that intercepted their signal begun the next stage of its invasion? No one knew what horrors might come next, but all of them shared the same terrifying realization. This time, they had made a catastrophic mistake. With each passing day, the green phenomenon expanded further. Its center remained perfectly aligned with the transmitter on the island. It resembled a colossal vortex stretching endlessly into the heavens, radiating an unsettling presence. Any small creature that approached it seemed to die for no apparent reason. Far away, at Sam's private estate, a presidential advisor arrived in person demanding answers. Military satellites had detected unusual radiation levels in the region, and the anomaly was located directly above Sam's island. Even more alarming, the vortex was expanding at an extraordinary rate. Current projections suggested that it could envelop the entire planet within a single week. Faced with mounting pressure, Sam finally confessed the truth. The laboratory on his island had intercepted a signal originating from an extraterrestrial civilization. The advisor was left speechless. Realizing the severity of the situation, he immediately ordered the military to take control of the island and all operations conducted there. Meanwhile, Charlie and Annika remained completely absorbed in studying the growing vortex. They had developed a theory that the phenomenon was actually a wormhole created by the alien civilization, and that whatever had sent the signal might already be on its way to Earth. Determined to test the hypothesis, Annika gathered large quantities of wood and ignited a massive fire near the transmitter. As smoke rose into the air, it became caught by an invisible force. The vapor twisted upward and began spiraling around a single point above the transmitter, forming an enormous whirlpool in the sky. Just as Annika was trying to piece everything together, Sam and the military finally arrived on the island. Their first move was to seal off the entire area and place Annika, Perry, and Charlie under house arrest. By now, nearly everyone believed they were witnessing the opening stage of an alien invasion. A sense of helplessness and dread spread through the island, and panic began to take hold. Yet while everyone else focused on the growing threat, Annika became fixated on a single detail: the mysterious 8 minutes and 19 seconds. Gradually, she arrived at a startling conclusion. The extraterrestrial civilization had chosen that exact duration for a reason. It was their way of telling humanity that they had already analyzed Earth and understood that all life here depended on air to survive. If two vastly different species wanted to communicate safely, what medium would they choose? Not spoken language, not written symbols. The answer was the atmosphere itself. The enormous vortex hanging above the island was not an invasion weapon at all. It was a conversation window made of air. Convinced she had finally understood the message, Annika decided to take a desperate gamble. The only way to resolve the crisis was to enter the energy field and attempt direct communication with the alien intelligence. However, just as the group prepared to approach the transmitter, a squad of soldiers suddenly appeared. The military had expanded the quarantine zone, and no one was permitted to get anywhere near the structure. As the hours passed, the vortex overhead continued growing larger, and Annika became increasingly desperate. Eventually, she sought out the presidential advisor and explained her theory. The advisor listened carefully but remained unconvinced. Entering the beam without understanding its nature could trigger consequences no one could predict. In the end, he agreed to a compromise. Annika would be allowed to approach the edge of the field and attempt to communicate from a safe distance. She appeared to accept the arrangement without protest. But the instant the equipment activated, Annika sprinted directly into the center of the beam. A soldier reacted immediately and fired. The bullet struck her in the chest, and she collapsed to the ground. Yet by pure chance, she fell entirely within the area covered by the mysterious light. In the next moment, she stood up completely unharmed. The soldiers were gone. The island was gone. Everything around her had vanished. It felt as though she had crossed into another dimension. Then a strange voice echoed inside her mind. Annika's consciousness was drawn into a surreal realm constructed from memories and thoughts. There, she saw her younger sister, the sister who had died years ago. The girl suddenly spoke, and Annika realized that this was the medium the alien intelligence had chosen for communication. The entity explained that it was no longer a biological organism, nor was it a machine. It had evolved beyond both concepts and become something far stranger, a form of existence intertwined with the very laws of physics themselves. At that moment, Annika understood that her theory had been correct all along. The aliens had not created the phenomenon to invade Earth. They had created it as a warning. Humanity must never casually broadcast its presence into the cosmos. The universe was not a peaceful frontier waiting to be explored. It was a dark forest filled with unseen dangers. Any civilization foolish enough to reveal its location risked attracting the attention of far more powerful predators. And now, because of the signal humanity had transmitted, Earth had exposed its position to the universe. The next instant, Annika awoke back in the real world. Around her, people stared upward in terror. Wrapped completely within the enormous green vortex, the entire planet vanished without a trace. When Annika opened her eyes once again, she found herself at an aerospace command center. Scientists, military officials, and government representatives immediately demanded answers. In response, she revealed the true purpose of the alien civilization. They had never intended to invade Earth. After humanity exposed its coordinates, the aliens had effectively draped an invisibility cloak over the planet, concealing it from other advanced civilizations that might otherwise view Earth as prey. They had chosen to help because they believed humanity was destined to follow a similar evolutionary path someday. Although humans still possessed countless flaws, the aliens saw the potential for them to eventually become beings like themselves. The film ultimately concluded with one final question posed by Annika. While the movie featured relatively few large-scale disaster sequences compared to most science fiction blockbusters, the ideas it introduced were fascinating. Anyone familiar with concepts such as the dark forest theory would immediately recognize the parallels. The story suggested that the greatest danger in the universe might not be hostile invaders, but simply being noticed. And once that possibility truly sinks in, it becomes impossible not to feel how small and vulnerable humanity really is within the vastness of the cosmos. That wraps up today's recap. If you have your own interpretation of the film or thoughts about its ending, feel free to share them in the comments. See you in the next one.